Late one August morning in 1944, at Observation Post 4 Pardal in France, German technical officers at Flak Regiment 155W were bewildered. The mathematics of the morning report defied belief. Their V-1 flying bombs, launched toward London, were being destroyed at an unbelievable rate of 82%. This contradicted everything taught in their technical academies and what their intelligence services had assured them about Allied anti-aircraft capabilities. German observers saw shells detonating near the missiles with impossible accuracy, not requiring direct hits. Max Wachtel, commander of the entire V-1 offensive, received these reports with growing alarm. The proportion of flying bombs destroyed by the coastal gunbelt had soared from 17% in June to 74% by late August, peaking at 82% on one extraordinary day. This was the beginning of the most profound technological shock the Wehrmacht's weapon scientists would experience. Unknown to Wachtel or any German scientist, they were witnessing the deployment of the proximity fuse, coded by the Allies as the VT or variable time fuse. This revolutionary technology systematically destroyed Hitler's terror weapon with precision that German physics deemed impossible. The story began exactly 1 week after D-Day, on June 13, 1944. In response to the Normandy invasion, Hitler unleashed his long-promised vengeance weapon, or Vergeltungswaffe, against London. The first V-1 fell that day, destroying a railway bridge and homes, killing 6 people. The V-1 was the world's first operational cruise missile. It was a pilotless aircraft powered by a pulse jet engine, carrying 850 kilograms of explosive at 640 kilometers per hour. Major Walter Dornberger, head of the V-weapons program, calculated that even with a conservative 25% success rate, the V-1 would deliver more explosive power to London than the entire 1940-1941 Blitz. It cost only 5,000 Reichsmarks, a fraction of a manned bomber mission with no risk to aircrew. At Peenemünde Army Research Center, German scientists were confident, having developed advanced rocket technology, operational jet aircraft, and now the first cruise missile. Dr. Robert Lusser, who designed the control system, calculated that Allied interception was nearly impossible. The V-1 flew fast, between 600 and 2,700 meters altitude. British fighters needed over 650 kilometers per hour to intercept and had to close within 200 meters to destroy it, risking destruction from the explosion. For anti-aircraft fire, the probability of a direct hit on such a small, fast target was calculated at less than 1 in 10,000 shells fired, which was considered sound ballistic science. Conventional time fuse shells required accurate prediction, precise calculation, manual fuse setting, and perfect timing, giving gunners perhaps only 30 seconds from detection to engagement. Over the course of the campaign, Germans launched 9,521 V-1 missiles from ground sites against England, with a total of approximately 25,000 deployed throughout the war. Within days of the first launches, troubling reports reached German intelligence. British anti-aircraft defenses were adapting with suspicious speed. By late June, the interception rate climbed from 10% to 24%, which was high but explainable. By July, the statistics became inexplicable. Technical officers noticed British guns claiming V-1 kills with impossibly low ammunition expenditure. Observers saw V-1s suddenly surrounded by flak bursts and tumbling from the sky, even though the explosions occurred too far away for direct hits. They were witnessing proximity fuses turning near misses into kills. The technology had been operational in the Pacific since January 1943. The German intelligence failure was comprehensive. The Oslo report of November 1939 had mentioned proximity fuse research, but German scientists had dismissed it as disinformation. Germany had attempted similar technology with over 30 designs, but concluded proximity fuses were impossible due to insurmountable technical challenges. Miniaturizing radio transmitter receivers for shells, making vacuum tubes survive 20,000 G-forces, creating long-lasting, instantly activating batteries, and achieving mass production all seemed too difficult. Yet by August 1944, American factories were producing 40,000 VT fuses daily. In the final week of August, the proximity fuse achieved its maximum effectiveness. The British reorganized their entire anti-aircraft defense system. Guns employed American SCR-58-4 radar for automatic tracking and fired shells with VT fuses modified specifically for the V-1 threat. The Royal Artillery and RAF Regiment had redeployed to the south coast, creating a concentrated gun belt, with the coastal positioning ensuring any dud shells fell into the sea, preventing German capture. As V-1s crossed the coast, they entered a kill zone where technology trumped statistics. The SCR-58-4 radar automatically calculated trajectories and fed firing solutions to the guns. The proximity fuse contained miniature radio transmitters built with tubes developed by Sylvania Electric and Western Electric. When reflected signals indicated proximity, Theratron switches triggered detonators, sending steel fragments through the V-1 hulls. The 82% interception rate achieved by coastal guns on the peak day was a rate German engineers considered physically impossible. The crisis meetings at German headquarters led to Wachtel suspecting sabotage, but inspections found nothing wrong with the missiles. Test firings over German territory showed normal performance. The problem only manifested against British defenses. German experts concluded the British had revolutionary anti-aircraft systems but couldn't determine the specifics without captured examples. Varying tactics like different altitudes, larger salvos, and night launches failed to change the devastating kill rate. At Peenemünde, scientists had to face the uncomfortable conclusion that the Allies had achieved what Germany thought impossible. German efforts to uncover the secret failed completely. The proximity fuse's security was nearly perfect. Production was compartmentalized across 110 factories, with workers knowing only their specific tasks. Even the name variable time was a deliberate deception, suggesting a conventional time fuse. By 1944, America's electronics industry capacity was dedicated to fuse production. 22 million proximity fuses would be produced by war's end, costing over $1 billion in the 1940s. The Crosley Corporation alone produced over 5 million fuses. This staggering industrial mismatch was absolute. While Germany struggled, often using forced labor to produce V-1s, America transformed its electronics industry, achieving a peak daily production of 40,000 fuses. Costs dropped from $732 per unit in 1942 to $18 in 1945. Crosley, a pre-war manufacturer of radios and refrigerators, employed 10,000 workers and produced 16,000 fuses daily at peak. Sylvania Electric dedicated its entire vacuum tube research division to developing ruggedized components, producing 400,000 miniaturized tubes daily. The contrast was absolute. While Germany handcrafted limited-number weapons, America mass-produced revolutionary technology on an unprecedented scale. Monthly American proximity fuse production exceeded total German V-1 production for the entire war. The proximity fuse was an extraordinary feat of engineering. The device had to survive being fired from a gun, enduring 20,000 G-force acceleration, a 25,000 RPM spin, and temperature extremes. Sylvania developed miniature vacuum tubes based on hearing aid designs, but reinforced to survive these forces. The batteries remained dormant for years, yet activated instantly. The fuse contained a miniature radio that continuously transmitted signals. When reflections indicated proximity to a target, circuits triggered the detonation. Quality control was unprecedented. Every fuse underwent multiple tests, and random samples were test-fired. Rejection rates below 2% demonstrated remarkable manufacturing precision at massive scale. By September 1944, the V-1 offensive against Britain was effectively neutralized. Of 9,521 V-1s launched from ground sites, only 2,515 reached London, killing 6,184 civilians. While tragic, General Frederick Pyle, commanding Anti-Aircraft Command, calculated that without proximity fuses, V-1 casualties would have been 4 to 5 times higher. The proximity fuse saved London from devastation. Germany shifted to night launches and developed the V-2 rocket, which flew too fast for interception, But these desperate measures couldn't achieve strategic impact, making the V-1 a costly failure. The German failure to detect the proximity fuse represented one of history's greatest intelligence disasters. The program remained secret throughout the war. Not a single intact proximity fuse fell into German hands during the V-1 campaign. Remarkably, German forces captured an American ammunition dump containing proximity fuses during the Battle of the Bulge, but never recognized them. Their assumption that such devices were impossible blinded them to the evidence in their own hands. After Germany's surrender, interrogations revealed complete German ignorance. Max Wachtel told Allied officers they suspected improved radar or faster setting fuses, but never imagined self-thinking shells. German scientists shown captured American VT fuses expressed disbelief. They estimated being 10 years behind American technology. Dr. Merle Tuve, who led the development, reflected that success came from systematic collaboration between scientists, engineers, and production workers, something totalitarian systems couldn't achieve. The proximity fuse demonstrated that the war's outcome was determined in laboratories and factories as much as on battlefields. While Germany pursued exotic wonder weapons, America focused on multiplicative technologies that enhanced existing weapons. The proximity fuse made every anti-aircraft gun 5 to 10 times more effective. Secretary of the Navy James Forrestal later stated that the device helped blaze the trail to Japan, and without its protection, the westward push in the Pacific could not have been so swift. The V-1 program relied heavily on slave labor, while American workers voluntarily worked overtime for premium wages, unknowingly producing London's salvation. The proximity fuse secret was held completely. British anti-aircraft crews didn't know what made their shells effective, only that they were special ammunition with strict accounting requirements. Naval vessels patrolled the channel to prevent German recovery of duds. This secrecy cost lives, as Allied ground forces couldn't use proximity-fused artillery until December 1944 to avoid the risk of capture. Yet using them against the V-1s was justified, as London's survival during the invasion was crucial. The V-1 program drained critical resources for minimal strategic impact, diverting resources from desperately needed fighter aircraft and anti-tank weapons. The proximity fuse was defeating weapons built through human suffering, a contrast fully understood only post-war. The proximity fuse represented the transformation of warfare, victory through engineering and production rather than individual weapon superiority. It proved modern warfare was a contest of industrial systems. Before proximity fuses, destroying a V-1 required an average of 2,500 heavy anti-aircraft shells. With proximity fuses, this dropped to 100 shells. The gunbelt's interception rate rose from 17% to 82% in 10 weeks. This was achieved not through courage or training, but through mass production of advanced technology on a scale Germany couldn't match or comprehend. America had mobilized its entire electronics industry, employed over 80,000 workers, and invested over $1 billion to produce 22 million fuses. The proximity fuse was declassified in September 1945. The War Department announcement stated it was one of the most important weapons developed during the war, surpassed in effectiveness only by the atomic bomb. For German scientists, the revelation brought understanding and humiliation. They had been defeated not by strategy or courage, but by industrial capacity they hadn't imagined possible. They had believed their V-1 represented the pinnacle of weapons technology. Learning it was defeated by mass-produced electronics costing less than $20 each was devastating. They had lost not to warriors, but to assembly lines. The proximity fuse technology evolved into modern air defense systems. For Germany's former weapons scientists, it remained a permanent reminder of their wartime blindness. The proximity fuse proved that mass-producing good technology matters more than crafting perfect weapons. Germany produced brilliant individual weapons. America produced effective weapons by the millions. On that remarkable day in late August 1944, when proximity fuses destroyed 82% of German V-1s, the nature of warfare changed forever. The Germans launching their vengeance weapons never knew what invisible technology was defeating them. They had done everything right by their understanding, yet they were defeated by mass-produced electronics they couldn't imagine possible. It was industrial democracy's triumph over totalitarian engineering, mass production over crafted perfection, and multiplied simple solutions over complex wonder weapons. The Germans never discovered what hit their V-1s until long after it mattered. The 82% interception rate stood as proof that industrial capacity could defeat any wonder weapon, no matter how ingenious. The proximity fuse was evidence that democracy's ability to mobilize science and industry could overcome tyranny's forced brilliance. The Germans, watching their perfect weapons fall from the sky, never knew why they had already lost a war their leaders insisted they were winning.